everybody, welcome back to the next part of my dialing in series for our Line 6 Helix. Here is another tone that was always one of my favorites from pretty much the first time I heard it. Real classic, and it's from a player also who it's really hard to pinpoint a song to pick to kind of recreate a tone and go after his vibe on a song, because he has so much great material, and that is the late great Stevie Ray Vaughan. What an amazing tone, what an amazing player. Very difficult player to not only nail his tone down or even get close to, but to even dream of playing like him. It's almost like Hendrix, right? To actually truly, you know, quote unquote, copy Hendrix, it seems like an almost impossible task. He just had this incredible style, almost like an amazing sloppiness built into it, if that makes any sense, you know. So this was a definite challenge. I did choose the song. Funny enough that I mentioned Hendrix. I chose the song Little Wing, which is not a Stevie Ray Vaughan song at all, right? I believe this, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this was actually released after he passed away on the Sky Is Crying album. But I just remember loving Little Wing, you know, Hendrix's version of Little Wing, and hearing Stevie's, and I just thought, wow, man, he just, you know, he stuck so, in some ways, so close to the vibe that Jimmy had going, but he made it, you know, unmistakably Stevie, right? So I've always loved that, and his tone right from the beginning, you know, you get to hear it, beautiful crystal clear tone with that sort of edge of breakup, a nice reverb on it. So I chose that, even though, like I said, it's not an SRV song, right? But always a fave of mine. So I did a performance video of it very quickly. I did one quick take of it just to kind of keep the vibe of it all going. I used my Variax though, set to the stock factory Strat setting on the Variax on the neck pickup for all of that, for both the clean tone, I call it clean, but it's kind of edge of breakup, and overdrive tone. So there's two snapshots. I think I called them clean and lead, or clean and overdrive. I can't remember. We'll take a look in a second. But for the performance video, I used the Variax set on the Strat setting. I'm sure that'll have some comments come in. As I used the, it was funny, I used the Variax one time, I think, for a Solids of Swing demo for one of my marketplace demos, and everybody's like, you have to play Sultans of Swing on a Strat because it looks like it's a JTV59, which looks more of a Les Paul style guitar. But I was like, yeah, it actually is a Strat in a way, right? It's modeling a Strat. So what I did is I started dialing in this preset on my Yamaha Pacifica with the coil tap pulls, or split coil here. So I have the humbucker split to mimic a single coil, and I played most of it on the neck pickup anyways, but I wanted to make sure this tone kind of sounded okay across all pickup positions. So for this video, I figured I would use the Pacifica, but the performance video I used the Variax set on the Strat. So just so you can hear what this preset sounds like translating between different, you know, I guess Strat style guitars, if you might. So yeah, so check out the performance video. Let me know what you think. I found a great backing track online. It was just drums and bass. So what you're hearing is just the backing track, which is just drums and bass, and the one guitar part, which is what this preset is, untouched in the mix. And I will have this up as usual on custom tone for you guys, for anybody who wants to use it. And I was really, really enjoying this tone. Really, really nice stuff. Let's go over to Checkset and take a look at what I actually did on it, all right? So what I did is I started with my normal template, with the split crossover, which I can't wait. I'm going to be able to get rid of this soon once 2.8 comes out, right? It's going to have that wonderful tilt EQ and the high and low shelf, adjustable high and low shelf. So it'll be the end of the need of the split crossover for the most part. So the interesting thing in this is I did not even use it, okay? So some people will always download these after the fact and send me a message and say, why you have those two blocks there if you're not using them? I always keep them in. I mean, I could just X them out right now, and it's not going to change the tone of this preset in any way. So why do I keep them there? Well, sometimes, you know, maybe I want to use this live and I'm using a different guitar with it, and maybe because of a different guitar, this sounds a little too bright or a little too dark or whatever, it gives me a really fast way to roll off the highs by a dB or add some more highs in by a dB or two, just subtle adjustments. And if I take it away, then I've got to put it back in. And so it's not, I've got lots of block space, lots of processing power, so I just leave it there. It's not hurting anything, and it gives me just another thing I can dial in if I need it, okay? So let's take a look at what we did here. We started off at the end with the normal LA Studio comp compressor that I always put in there, that anybody's watched my videos knows about. Peak reduction 5.5, gain at 5, mix at 100%. EQ, I did play around a little bit with the EQ. Low cut was at 120 hertz, a little higher than I normally go. Just wanted to control the low end a little bit more on this to get it closer to what Stevie has going on. And the high cut I went down to 10 kilohertz. And again, a little bit lower than what I normally do, just to not have too much of that upper end kind of brightness in there. As far as the rest of the EQ, 230 hertz with a Q of 2, I dropped out 2 dB. No big deal. Mid frequency at 600 hertz with a fairly wide Q of 0.4. I added in a fair amount, 6.8 dB. And that was a real important part to this tone, getting that mid-range kind of close and right. And that was basically it for the EQ. The verb was interesting. When you listen to this, especially in the intro, you get to hear that soloed guitar, so you can really hear what Stevie was doing on it and what the intricacies of the tone was. And he's got a very big reverb on it. I was surprised, you know. I've listened to this a million times. And it's funny when you're listening in a critical manner to kind of recreate a tone, or, you know, just listening for enjoyment, you're not, I try to disconnect myself when I'm listening for enjoyment to not be analyzing the tone or analyzing too much. I just want to listen to it to enjoy the music, right? Enjoy Stevie's amazing playing. But yeah, when I started to sort of dive in and listen with a more analytical ear, I really heard there was a fairly big reverb on it. So I chose a Hall reverb with a fairly long decay of 6.3, a pre-delay of 25 milliseconds, just so that reverb wouldn't kind of engulf the initial attack of the note, right? So there's a little bit of breathing room there, and a mix of 32%. I already mentioned the split crossover, I hadn't used that. The amp I used was the Tweed Blues Bright, okay? We'll get back to that in a second. I don't really know what Stevie used on this, to be honest with you, originally. And again, I've mentioned it before, I don't really care a lot of times. Like if it's really well-known fact that a certain player used a specific amp on a song and I'm trying to recreate that and we have that exact amp in the Helix, I will usually use it as a starting point. But sometimes it's really funny. I just go to a completely different amp and it works out really well to kind of get close to some tones. So in this case, like I said, I don't really know. If somebody knows, leave it in the comments. I'm sure the information's out there somewhere. I just kind of didn't have time to really dive into it. So I chose the Tweed Blues Bright. And I went with the stock cab that defaults with it, 410 Tweed P10R, with a 160 ribbon mic at 2 inches back. Now, I stuck with this 160 ribbon. I can't remember what comes up as default on that. It might very well be this, but I love the 121 ribbon mic, but it is a little bit of a darker sound. The 160 ribbon is sort of the most neutral of the ribbon mics I find inside of the Helix, in my opinion. So I found that setting really worked well. So for the clean here, what did we have? We had the drive setting at 5, bass at 5.7, mid crank to 10. Again, really accentuating those important mid frequencies in this tone. Treble down to 2.8 and presence up to 6.9. It's not an overly bright tone, but it does have a really nice bite to it. So I tried to use that to balance it and get close. Again, I'm not saying I've recreated Stevie's tone by any means. That would be very arrogant of me to say that. So this is just me getting as close as I can, or get something usable for those folks who want to have something in the ballpark. And again, like I said, this is going to sound so much different depending on the guitar monitoring system. I've said this right from the beginning, right? The guitar, the monitoring system we use, our hands, you know, our ability to play a certain way and attack the strings a certain way, it's going to sound different in everybody's hands, right? So, channel volume, yeah, presence at 6.9, channel volume up to 10 just to get our output up, and master on 10. I don't believe I touched the deeper controls, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I really don't think so. I think that's the normal setting for those. And then I did, like I mentioned, I called it a dirt snapshot. Now I didn't touch any of those settings we just talked about. I simply added in a Scream 808. As Stevie Ray was known to oftentimes to use a tube screamer. Did he use it on this song? I don't know. possibly, I know he was known to use it. So I threw the Scream 808 on with a gain of 4.5, tone up to 7, and the level just where it was at 6.7, which seemed to work to give me a nice little boost to go from the clean up to the dirt sound. Okay, so let's go back to our clean snapshot, and let's do this. Let's shut everything off here. EQ, reverb. So now we just have the amp settings going into this particular stock cab with a 160 ribbon at a distance of 2 inches, okay? So, okay, you can kind of hear maybe a little too flubby in the low end, right? And this is why I came in, first of all, let's put our compression on at the end. Tightens it up a bit. I really like that. Gives it a bit of a squish to it. Now the EQ, like I mentioned, I pulled out some low end, had my low cut a little higher than normal, and boosted a bunch of mid frequencies. So let's hear what this does to the sound. It's with it off and with it on. Here the low end tightens up. With it off, it really has that typical flubby Fender low end to it, right? Which is fine for some stuff, but in this case, I like this a lot better to get closer to that Stevie tone. What I really liked about this, it has that nice edge of breakup when you dig into it, but so really nice and dynamic response to the finger touch. It's just not always sounding broken up, right? Just like a real amp would. The reverb makes a huge difference, I found, in this. Let's listen to that. Yeah, I have the tab up over here. Just, you know what's so funny about it? I've played Little Wing a million times, and I always would perform live whenever I would do it. I used to do this with a band all the time. Everybody loves this song live for some reason. Well, it's a great song. I would always play like more Hendrix version of it, right? So for this, I wanted to make sure I tried to stay in Stevie Ray land rather than going over to Jimmy land, if that makes any sense. And I don't know if I even came close to it, to be honest with you. Cut me a little slack. I did a real quick take on the performance video. So, but it was loads of fun. But anyways, I did have the tab of it here. It's a cool tab, actually. I found online. It had all the kind of cool little things that Stevie was throwing in there, all the kind of classic Stevie-isms. All right, so cool. So that was the clean tone, right? Now, what I did is for the next snapshot, like I said, I brought the old Tube Screamer in, and that's basically kicks in, I think, once or twice through Stevie's version of this song on the... So I was really liking that. It kind of got that Stevie vibe, at least. I think it'll work out well for a lot of folks. And you know, even if going back to this tone here, I'm sure I never took the time. I kind of was hoping to have more time to do this and do something like maybe add in a rotary speaker effect, you know, to get more of his stuff. You know, to mimic that effect that he did have on a lot of his stuff on different albums. I couldn't stand the weather, I believe, had a boatload of rotary effects, if I'm not mistaken, on that. So, but yeah, it's a good starting point. So I mean, throw a rotary speaker in somewhere after the speaker cab, and you know, it might work out really, really well and sound cool. Maybe that'll be a good topic for a future video. So for now, anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed that. Please go check out the performance video. Let me know what you think. Like I said, you've heard it on this guitar now. The performance video is done on the Variax, on the Strat setting, mind you. I can't clarify that enough. And so in the intro, you're hearing just the one guitar. So you're getting to hear this tone just as is, with no post-processing after. And then you got to hear how it sounds kind of with that same sort of introduction. Hopefully I didn't butcher it too much. On this guitar, so you kind of heard what it sounded like on two different Strat style guitars. Let me know how it works out for you guys on yours. But it was a really fun tone, and I really enjoyed just jamming through it afterwards. So I hope you guys like it too. It's very responsive, which is what I liked about it, you know. Can be very clean and crisp, but it also breaks up nice when you dig into it a little bit. So it's up on Custom Tone now. By the time this video goes live, please download it. Share it with your friends, anybody that you think would like it. Please like the video, share the video as well, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you thought about the tone when you get a chance to try it out. Thank you guys as always for tuning in, and thank you so much for your support and kind words. Really, really appreciate it, and have such a good time interacting with so many folks out there. And I will be back soon with some more content. Ciao for now. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.